One of the keys to a good Chinese stir fry is portioning. After all, a wok that looks like this is going to cook about as well as a baking tray that looks like this. To avoid crowding, a reasonable rule of thumb is to never try to stir fry more than 500 grams of stuff simultaneously. But that 500-gram soft ceiling, I do know that's probably a lot more limiting in a Western kitchen than a Chinese one. After all, a Chinese meal is usually based around a number of smaller, roughly evenly sized dishes, instead of the Western style centered around one larger main. And if you blindly tried to make a main-sized stir-fry, you're gonna have a bad, crowdy time. So, the Western food blogger world and the like sensibly adapted. Generally speaking, these days, if you see a quote-unquote stir-fry in the Anglosphere, the technique will probably be something a bit like this. The components will be fried separately. Excellent start. Then kinda mixed and simmered in a sauce, and then finally thickened. And while we do often have some critiques of some of these recipes, at its core, the technique isn't crazy or anything. You can see a very similar approach in dishes like Cantonese-style Buddha's Delight, a dish that can also push the boundary of that quantity limit. And while it's obviously tasty, at that point you're not really stir-frying though, right? Maybe kinda stir-braising. So, one possible answer to this cross-cultural stir-frying conundrum, we think, is something called ganguo or dry pot. See, if that Chinese restaurant jet engine burner is the medium of choice to get that elusive stir-fry wok hei, a dry pot is how you get Gan Xiang, a taste that's almost the same thing. The characters mean dry, fragrant, and it's kind of like the flavor from ganbian sijido or maybe some freshly broiled sprouts. Like wok hei, it's kind of an abstract flavor, but it also checks a lot of the same boxes. Both are hot, temperature-wise. Both are also dry, meaning nothing overly liquidy. And for both, there's also going to be at least some caramelization. Of course, wok hei also implies that additional subtle taste of restaurant wok burner burning oil to flashpoint. But I'm not totally sure that I'd be able to pick that up in a blind taste test. So then, ganguo isn't really a dish, but more of a technique to help you arrive at that Gan Xiang flavor. Just like the modern Western stir-fry, you first pre-cook everything. Boil, fry, or stir-fry depending, set them aside, and then separately fry up a base. But importantly, something oil-based with minimal liquid. Then, on the side, you'll heat up some sort of pot that keeps heat really well. Classically, one of these guys, but cast iron totally fine. Then you mix your ingredients with that base, transfer your mound of stuff into the now sizzling pot, and serve. It's basically one big stir-fry that can scale and can totally work as a Western-style main. So, today we'll be teaching you two pots. First, we'll cover a classic Sichuan style called XIANGLA Ganguo, but because we do think that this would be a nice technique anywhere and everywhere, we also slap together a Western supermarket-friendly pot as well, so that even if you don't have access to an Asian supermarket, you can still try to give this thing a whirl. So then, for the Sichuan one, this will all rely on the ganguo base. If you've ever been to a Sichuan or Hunan restaurant and been greeted with a menu containing a whole list of different dry pots, that's often done by using the same ganguo base, only with different mixes of ingredients. That base will obviously vary from restaurant to restaurant, but they do tend to contain similar ideas. To make it, first just toss a half cup of oil to a hot wok, preferably caiziyou, but peanuts also fine. And over a medium flame, toss in a quarter of an onion finely sliced, about 4 cloves of smashed garlic, an inch of smashed ginger, and a couple sprigs of cilantro. Let it all fry for about 3 minutes, then also toss in a half a cinnamon stick, 2-star anise, a half teaspoon fennel seed, and a half tablespoon Sichuan peppercorn. Continue to fry that over a medium flame until the onions are good and browned, about 5 to 8 minutes more, then dip that all out and strain. Then, for the chili pepper component of our base, today I decided to be a little lazy and reach for a product from Lao Gan Ma called Zaola chopped chilies. What people would actually reach for here in Sichuan would be something called ciba chili, which is basically just dried chilies reconstituted then pounded. We've showed you how to do that on this channel before, so do check it out if you're curious. But despite the English name here, these chilies aren't actually pickled, but fermented. So they're not sour or anything, just a little mellower than the fresh. And Hunan chopped chilies are about the same thing if you can't find this exact bottle. So just drain out some of that liquid and set both of those aside. So now just add your now flavored oil back to your wok. Toss in 2 tablespoons of lard or tallow or whatever oil you want. And over a low flame, toss in a 1/4 cup of the minced chilies. Now, no matter which direction you went with the chili peppers, there will be some moisture in there, so do be careful and don't push the heat. Let it just slowly fry there for about 8 minutes, or until there's no longer any obvious angry moisture bubbles. Then go in with a tablespoon half of minced pixian doubanjiang chili bean paste, together with a tablespoon of roughly chopped Lao Gan Ma black bean chili. Let that continue to fry over a low flame for about 3 minutes, or until the oil is good and stained. Then toss in a tablespoon of a red fragrant chili powder like Kashmiri or gochugaru, together with a teaspoon of a spicy chili powder, something like cayenne pepper. Give that all a quick fry, then add in a half tablespoon of oyster sauce, together with that liquid we drained earlier, because waste not, want not. Then toss in the seasoning, which I'll list at the top of the screen. Quick mix, and out. So, with our base done now, for our pot today, this is going to be our cornucopia of components. Now again, this is very much an eat what you feel like sort of affair. Like this here is a bunch of Sichuan Ganguo classics, plus some satol bean, an ingredient that's very not Sichuan, but quite tasty and local to us in Bangkok, and why not? So, pre-cooking time, most of these guys just need a quick blanch. So, to a pot of boiling water, we'll toss in 130 grams of sliced lotus root, blanch it till it's done, about 3 minutes, and take it out. Then, 75 grams of tofu puffs, also about a 3-minute blanch, our satol beans, only a minute, and finally 120 grams of Napa cabbage, also about 1 minute. Then, for both the tofu puffs and the Napa, definitely make sure that you really wring those guys super dry after. You definitely don't want that liquid to get into your pot and ruin your Gan Xiang flavor. Then, for some protein, we've also got about 250 grams of boiled quail egg, together with 300 grams of pork belly. But for our pork belly, the one that we got from our market today was a little on the fatty side. So in that kind of situation, what we like to do is slice our pork, but then separate the bits that are basically pure fat, which will then render until crisp. For the leaner bits then, just marinate those with a half teaspoon salt, a 1/4 teaspoon white pepper, a half teaspoon soy sauce, a half teaspoon liaojiu, aka Shaoxing wine, and then coat it all with about a teaspoon of oil. Then, to fry, just toss a thin smear of oil onto your wok, and we'll be going in with our fat pieces from before at first. Over a medium flame, slowly render the lard from the fat, and it took us about 10 minutes here before everything was nice and crispy. From that rendered lard, though, we'll only need about 2 tablespoons of oil to fry up our pot base, so scoop out any excess lard and reserve it for another use. Now, before charging forward here, we do need to have a quick aside on equipment. Again, we'll be serving this in a sizzling pot, so anything that keeps heat well will work. So stainless steel, cast iron, that sort of thing. But if you wanted the entire Ganguo experience, that pot is also often served over some sort of flame at the table. Hunk of charcoal, burning alcohol gel, that sort of thing. So it might also be nice to serve your pot on a camper burner like this on low. Far from mandatory though. Either way, just heat up your pot over a low flame, and we can swing back to our wok as that's getting hot. So then, now just add in all of your pork belly and then up your flame to high. Fry that pork for about 2 minutes, or until it's cooked and slightly browned, then scooch that up the side of the wok. Then add in about 4 cloves of smashed garlic, a ½ inch of smashed ginger, quick fry till fragrant, then toss in a teaspoon of Sichuan peppercorns, together with about 4 spicy dried chilies cut into sections. Fry those till they're fragrant, then toss in 6 tablespoons of the ganguo base that we made before. Quick 30-second mix together, then swirl in a tablespoon of either baijiu or Shaoxing wine, and after another quick mix, you've got yourself a base. Add in all your pre-cooked components of choice, toss in your seasoning, again, top of the screen, and heat off. Sprinkle over about a tablespoon of toasted sesame seeds, chunks from a half an onion, about a sprig's worth of cilantro, together with a similar amount of Chinese celery. Quick mix, then back to the pot. Just heat that up till you're looking at about 160 Celsius, layer everything on, and with that, you've got yourself a sizzling Sichuan dry pot. So now, for our Western Supermarket Club dry pot, The direction that we decided to go here was a flavor profile called Gan Xiang, or sauce fragrant. It's a flavor profile that's based off of Chinese fermented bean sauces like chuho or yellow soybean sauce. You know, stuff that's usually not found at Kroger's. But there is one sauce that is Gan Xiang and is Western supermarket available, and that's hoisin sauce. So then, our base for this one will be hoisin based, together with some chili garlic sauce in the form of sriracha, like actual American hoi fong sriracha, and a natural unsweetened peanut butter. So then, swapping to a nonstick now in the spirit of Western supermarket clubbing, over a medium-low flame, toss in about 2 tablespoons of peanut oil, 4 cloves worth of minced garlic, and a half tablespoon of peanut butter. We want the peanut butter to kind of get a deeper, more roasted flavor, so patiently fry that all together for about 6 or 7 minutes, or until the peanut butter is slightly starting to deepen in color, and then go in with 2.5 tablespoons of hoisin. Fry that all together until it's combined, then toss in 2 tablespoons of sriracha, and fry that until it's combined. Swirl in a tablespoon of soy sauce, let that cook for about a minute or two to get rid of a bit of that moisture, and then go in with your seasoning. Good mix, heat off, and out. So then, base sorted, this is the mix that we decided to do with this version, all Western supermarket stuff, assuming your math's right. Like before, a good chunk of this will get blanched first. 300 grams of broccoli together with 100 grams of king oyster mushroom, blanched for about a minute, plus 200 grams of quartered corn, blanched for about 3 minutes. And while neither of those things need a squeeze, definitely do make sure that they are well drained. Then, besides that, we've also got some stuff that'd probably be best fried. Ideally, deep fried in a wok, but shallow fry in a skillet, also fine. So, this was just 200 grams of potato, sliced into 3mm sheets, vigorously rinsed to get off the surface starch and soaked in water till you're ready to fry. Pat those thoroughly dry, and we'll be frying it all in about a centimeter's worth of oil. Heat it up over a medium-high flame until that oil is bubbling around a pair of chopsticks, and slide your potato pieces in, and you might need to do this in 2 batches. You don't need to fry these till crispy or anything, just go for about 2 to 3 minutes until they're cooked through. Then, besides that, we've also got 350 grams of chicken wings, marinated with a half teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon white pepper powder, 1/4 teaspoon Shaoxing wine, and just swap for white or sherry if you need, 1/4 teaspoon soy sauce, and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. Thoroughly mix and set aside. Then, right before frying, because shallow frying can get a little splashier than deep frying, for safety's sake, we'll also mix in another half tablespoon of cornstarch to really make sure that things are dry. Fry the wings over a medium-high flame until they're browned and cooked through, about 8 minutes, and then take them out. And then finally, the last ingredient that'll benefit from a pre-fry is Spam. Here about 150 grams worth, fried for about 2 minutes till it's lightly blistered. Take those out, and like before, we'll only need about 2 tablespoons of oil to fry up our pot, so just dip out the excess. Then, heat on high. Go in with 2 cloves of chopped garlic, and same deal, 6 tablespoons of your ganguo base. Fry it all together for about 2 minutes, or until that base is starting to foam up a touch, then go in with all your ingredients and thoroughly mix. Add in your seasoning, mix it again, and finally sprinkle over a half a chopped onion together with a sprig's worth of cilantro. Then just pour that all onto your sizzling cast iron skillet, and our second ganguo is also ready to devour.
So in this video, we did 2 flavor profiles. One is XIANGLA, spicy. Another one is Gan Xiang, sauce fragrance. But there are actually many other flavor profiles for ganguo. Like from what I've seen, there's Paojiao, pickled chilies, suan la, sour and spicy. And there's my favorite, which is xia suan, a funky, spicy shrimp paste from Guizhou. So you can draw inspiration from this and figure out your favorite flavor profile. Right, so check out the recipe in the description box. A big thank you for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon. And of course, subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos.